All right, we'll give folks maybe a couple more minutes or maybe just one more minute, but just for background, this room is for our guests who want to hear more about MUD's interdisciplinary and collaborative approach to an education and really learning more about how that is distinct. And we have our speakers. I'll share my screen now. So we have our front screen. Okay. So I hope you can see my screen. Joining us today are Prof. Yong, who you just met in an earlier in the earlier session, Professor Lilia Hawkins in the chemistry department, and also our Hickson Professor for Climate Studies, and Georgia Klein, a recent grad. So I'm actually just going to jump in to our questions because we don't have all that much time. But so the first question I wanted to ask our guests is, how does the interdisciplinary STEM education prepare our students for the real world? And not every person has to answer, but yeah.
I want to see if our alum, Georgia, wants to go first. We always like to let our students go first. I'm happy to jump in if not. Georgia?
I'll let you go first, but I'll come in.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's lovely to virtually see your faces and your names. I'd like to kick this one off with a connection to climate as promised. I'm the director for the Hickson Center for Climate and the Environment. And so in a sticky challenge like the climate challenge, it's critical that students not only feel able to cross disciplinary boundaries, but they feel excited and practiced in doing so. And that's one of the benefits of our core curriculum, which asks our students to move across STEM fields from those they might have a favorite in, maybe it's chemistry, for example, or mathematics, to those that maybe they feel more nervous about. And at the end of that experience, having practiced that feeling of stepping outside your comfort zone and moving into a new area, I find that our seniors and our graduates are much more comfortable taking that next step and reaching out to somebody in a different lab or a different subject matter expertise to try to solve a problem that's really important to them. And so I think that because challenges in our world are never narrow or well-defined, that practice of being in your home area and reaching out that we give students support for is really critical.
I can second that by saying every single thing that Prof. Hawkins just described happened to me while I was at MUD. I studied computer science, but have always been interested in climate and started taking a few classes. And there was a professor who was doing chemistry and computer science research, which I have not always liked chemistry, but reaching out to this professor and saying that I was interested in this research led to basically me switching everything that I'm interested in to doing computer science and air quality related work. I would also add on top of that just having a STEM education where you do, take each science seriously. I feel a lot more prepared to kind of be a part of the scientific community, but not just the computer science community, but the scientific community as a whole. And I feel more willing to, pick up a topic that I might not be as familiar with.
Another question, and again, we'll also take questions from our audience, so feel free to either chat me or to request to unmute. Another question that we had prepared for the panel is that, can you talk about the ways that faculty support collaboration over competition within the classroom and beyond? Yeah. What does that in-classroom experience feel like? Yeah.
I can jump in there and then see if anyone else wants to add. So I've taught in a few of our core courses. I've taught in the core chemistry series, the laboratory, and I've also taught in our new impact class with Prof. Young. And in those spaces and the other courses I'm familiar with, faculty regularly create purposeful, intentional, and curated group work experiences for students, which almost always justify the bringing together of different perspectives, whether students have read different short readings before coming together or are asked to, in that group work, maybe look at something different and bring it back to their team, so that in that group work experience, each student is a little mini expert in something they've just learned and they can bring back to their team. And in that way, it really does require all members of the group to work together to create something new, a presentation, a problem, a perspective, rather than one person talking over the other who has the best answer to the question at hand. So you'll see a lot of group work in the curriculum. And a second place, which we may not have time for, but we can come back to it maybe, is in the research environment. And so I run a research team of anywhere from 3 to 5 students, and that's also a very collaborative environment where we're all working on the same large goal.
I have a question. Oh, I'll ask one more question and we'll turn it over to our guests. So for students who may have a specific interest within a given field, say a specific area of engineering, specific area of chemistry or math, how does a place like HMC support students in that way, in their academic endeavors?
I can take a stab here. So I hope I'm okay saying this. I guess, if a person, for example, decides that they're super in a very specific field of mathematics, let's say number theory, and they just want to research number theory, Harvey might not be the best place for you, especially because our number theory professor just retired a couple years ago, so we're still trying to hire a new one. But besides that, what I'm trying to say is that if you are super narrowly focused in one field and you don't want to do things in other fields, it could be a pretty miserable experience. But besides that, I doubt that people are genuinely like that, where they only want to do one thing and they don't want to do anything else. This is a place that I'm sure many people who have lots of interest are going to thrive, because the curriculum sort of enforces you in a way to explore lots of things. And then there's so many opportunities across the economic colleges for you to dive into different things, either through coursework or through clubs.
And I'll pull on that thread a little bit more. Say let's take a department like engineering, and I know none of the folks represented here are in the engineering department. I'll give leeway to that. But say I'm a student, I'm really interested in mechanical engineering. I had an opportunity to do an internship, say this summer at some point, or I've come from a school where there's a pretty robust robotics program, and I think I'm pretty sure I want to do mechanical engineering. How would that work when it's a general engineering program?
I can jump in there. So your faculty advisor, it would be an engineer if you're an engineering major, and you can speak with them as well as other faculty in the department who aren't your advisor about the best coursework for an undergraduate who wants to go on and work in mechanical engineering, or perhaps do further study in mechanical engineering. So a mechanical engineer will need some specialty courses, but also lots of general courses. And you'll be able to take electives within the engineering department that support a mechanical engineering focus, even though you wouldn't have that stated on your degree, because we give a general engineering degree. And you could certainly engage in summer research experiences with faculty on our campus and elsewhere that are focusing on mechanical engineering, as well as internships. So I would say between summer experiences and electives, as well as major advising and conversations with those faculty, that's how one would focus.
We have a related question that came through from chat, right? So I think all folks can see this, but it's regarding biomedical engineering. I think the same answer that Prof. Hawkins provided would be applicable for biomedical engineering as mechanical engineering. But the second part of that question really talks about being able to be pre-med at Harvey Mudd. How would that work?
I can speak as someone who half my friends are pre-med. Well, also I will say one fact about biomedical as well. Like MUD has a very cool mathematical and computational biology program, which is also something very special to look into that my understanding is pretty unique to MUD for undergraduate schools. But for pre-med, there's pre-med advisors at MUD, and it's definitely a little different to what it's going to be like at most schools. And it definitely requires planning ahead a little bit, but there's plenty of students who do it. And a lot of those classes will actually fit into the core curriculum. So it's not really something you have to think about for the first year because you're already well on to completing that. And then from there on, you just need to be a little bit more organized to make sure that is all set out as well.
And I'm going to go to one of the other questions that we had pre-planned for this. And this is going to go to Georgia, and then we'll turn it over to our guests and their questions. So Georgia, what are the most important lessons? Actually, Daryl, Prof. Young can also answer this because he's also an alum. So for our alums, what are the most important lessons you've learned or skill sets you've developed from your time at HMC? Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start with a little bit more vague of a topic, and then I'll give maybe
Yeah,
a more
let's do
concrete
this, yeah.
example. But I think that the confidence that I gained at MUD and my attitude towards STEM and potentially hard topics and collaborating with other people is just something that was emphasized through every single class that I took at Harvey Mudd, from the whole idea of what core is to the way that professors teach classes. I think that there's just a confidence that I gained through studying a STEM topic at MUD that I don't know if I would have gained at a larger or a different institution. And then my big example, my lesson that I've been thinking a lot about recently is through the clinic program, which is the big capstone project that you do as a computer science or an engineering major. And I, this past spring, got to be the project manager for my group. And that was a really special experience. And I've been thinking about that a lot, of getting to transition from not just, okay, I know how to do this technical work, I know how to learn about the topic that I'm working on, but getting to start to manage the project that I was on was a really special experience. And every day I'm realizing how much more that will be a part of my life going forwards.
So you mean you'll be a leader again and again and again?
Never again. I'm done. No, I think that will happen again.
Cool. Prof. Young or Daryl?
Maybe I'll leave it at that. It seems like we've got a bunch of questions in the chat.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's start hitting some of the questions that we've received. A lot of some of them seem to be about outcomes, right? So one of the questions is, how do HMC grads stand out in the workplace compared to other graduates in terms of salary, alumni network, and all these things? So I think that makes a good transition to this slide. And maybe I'll invite Tara Briggs to talk more about why we are so proud of our alums.
Sure, happy to. So yes, you'll see some of these impressive statistics here in terms of sort of what makes Harvey Mudd alums successful. The basic things that we like to share are things like payscale.com, for example, consistently rates Harvey Mudd as the #1 return on investment of any college or university in the country. And our alums continuously have about the highest average mid-career salary of any college or university in the country. And we're often at or near the top of the list of liberal arts colleges that send the highest percentage of students on to get their PhDs. So that's all well and good. You see the median starting salary for the class that just graduated. And while we're proud of all that, what makes us, I think, the most proud is why we think they do so well. And mainly that's because they graduate with a set of 4 skills that distinguish them even from other high-level technical institutions. One is that they know how to write. As part of that curriculum, you heard about our Writ 1 class, but we make sure our students understand that writing isn't relegated to the non-technical fields. You need to do that in every field. In addition to that, our students know how to work across disciplines, largely because of the core curriculum, but also because of general engineering and just sort of the more interdisciplinary approach that we take. Third, they know how to collaborate rather than compete. So by the time our students graduate, they have both led teams and been a contributing member of a team. And probably most importantly, they know how to communicate. You can be as brilliant as you want. If you cannot share your ideas, it's not going to matter. And so we work with our students very intentionally on that. And often our alums are known as the translators in their fields because they can do the really high level technical work, but they can also translate the work they're doing for others who may not have that same high level of a technical background. And so that's something we take great pride in. And if we've learned anything over the past few years, it's about how important it is to translate science to the public. And I think our students do that and our alums do that incredibly well.
Thank you, Tara.
Sure.
I'm curious, in terms of just support for students, right? What were the most instrumental places for you as a student in Georgia in terms of your journey as a student?
I'd have to say individual relationships with faculty. I think that getting to do research with certain professors was really where I both got to know someone, gained a lot of confidence through that work, but also really had someone to talk to about my thoughts of where I am within MUD and where I am with my career. And being at a small school with so many opportunities to get to know professors on a one-on-one basis like that, I had that experience multiple times with multiple professors.
Thank you for that. We have another question here. Some of them are more curricular. So I'm going to go to the question regarding climate studies. So Prof. Hawkins, what are some benefits of HMC's climate studies program compared to other schools? And if you could speak to maybe our new majors, yeah.
Happy to. I was actually just typing a response, but I'll share it out loud. So one thing that's exciting about the new climate program is that many other schools that have climate majors, it's a whole major of itself. You major in climate studies or climate science or earth science or something like that. But at Harvey Mudd, we are combining climate with each of our STEM disciplines. So students can maintain a focus in physics, mathematics, chemistry, computer science. Right now, those are the 4 that we have partnerships with, while understanding and developing climate literacy. So they can keep sort of one foot in each field and have a specialty as well within climate. They don't have to choose climate over something that they might initially have wanted to do at Harvey Mudd. Another thing that's special is that our program blends basic earth science and climate with solutions and the humanities, social sciences, and the arts because of that large footprint that Prof. Young shared before we moved into the breakout. And most other climate programs are either energy focused or earth science focused or more of a humanities. And ours is what I would say like perfect blend of the 3.
Thank you. We also have a couple streams of regarding us specialized areas in engineering. And in case folks were not in the room when we were talking about that, basically our general engineering program provides our students with a foundation within many key areas of engineering. The elective courses are what allows them to address questions within mechanical engineering, within electrical, as well as our clinic program. Those are opportunities to be more specialized, I'd say. For folks who are interested in a listing of courses and electives, our academic catalog is available online. I'll try to link it here. If not, I'll link it in the main chat. But it's very robust and it's quite nice. And in fact, the engineering department, I'll try to link it here. They have a slide about how you might go, a visual about different areas of engineering that they're well represented through the elective courses that they have in project areas. So that's quite useful. I'll do that. There's also some questions regarding specific outcomes for specific majors. Our career services data that's available, that we're drawing this information from, that's on the screen right now. It doesn't break down by major. So unfortunately, I don't have that information, but some departments within their department page will state which graduate schools their students are going to and things like that. I know physics, and I think maybe chem also does that, but I'm not 100% sure. And of course, a direct question to the department itself may give you a more specialized answer. I have a question here about how quickly can undergrads get into research and specifically lab work?
I think it was answered by Prof. Hawkins in the chat, but
Oh.
yes, you can start
Oh,
applying
sorry.
as early as your first year. I know I started summer after first year, but I think typically second year is when most students gain access, and a lot of people are doing research during their third and fourth year.
What did you do your first summer?
I worked for a professor who maintains a website that it basically stores these large files that many computer science researchers need. And this professor every year hires a few younger students to help just maintain the website. So it was a great first job where I mean, I had access to doing the job because it was a little bit simpler. And so it was targeted at first year students. And I got to meet with the professor every single day, which was a really valuable experience for just getting used to working on a bigger project like that.
And the following summer or following summers, I forget the exact.
I've done internships every summer since.
Yeah. Wondering if there's any other questions from the crowd. We have about 1 more minute before we're going to be asked to move over to the big room again. And if not, I have a question for us.
Yes, it's a slightly specific question, it's a slightly specific question. I am aware about the specializations you can achieve, but I am confused about how you can show that on something like a resume or diploma when you graduate, it's just going to say that you're a engineering major. So how can you show that you're in a specific specialization when your major does not show said specialization?
I can try to take that one. I think the important thing to know is that the time that you finish Harvey Mudd, the thing that you walk out of this place is not just that major. It's your transcript, but more importantly, all of the connections and all the experiences that you have. And so by taking all the coursework, it shows up on your transcript, of course, but then you get to express your interest through research. You'll have faculty members who are going to write you letters of recommendation specifically talking about that research interest within industrial engineering or whatever your specialty is, subspecialty. You could also choose a clinic project during your final year where you get to specifically use that subdisciplinary knowledge. And then when you go for interviews or applications, you specifically talk about that as part of your industrial experience. Hope that helps.
And I've
All right,
known
thanks
some
for specifying.
Yeah, and I've known some students to actually list relevant coursework on their resume. So that's often helpful for them as well.
Yeah, there was also a question in the chat that I got as a private message, which was about students doing clinic and thesis. So typically a student would only be doing one, although I do think I know one person who did two, which is not common. So those are really targeted so that if you are an engineering, computer science, or CS math student, you are doing clinic, because that's really like giving you the skills to think more about being in the workplace rather than preparing for something more like a PhD program through thesis. But that is my take on it. I'm sure professors might have a different opinion about the differential between that.
I mean, certainly you wouldn't want to do both at once. It's too many credits. But I have had a senior in chemistry who continued research with me, but not thesis. So it was fewer credits, and then did a clinic project. So there's ways to balance both those experiences.
Yes, I did that senior year.
That's a lot. All right. Well, thank you, folks. We've been invited to go back to our main room. Thank